Welcome to episode 94 of the Backlot 605 podcast. I'm one of your hosts. I am Casey Kelderman.
I'm Brian Mensing.
And Brian, we are joined by my co-host of the Killer Countdown and the co-host of the Criterion Break with Andy and Blake. He is Blake of that title, Blake Ginnathan.
What's up, guys?
What's up, Mr. Ginnathan?
Not much. I got the claws out over here.
We can't tell. You're gonna have to describe everything for us.
I only see John Lovitz on my screen.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. I'm drinking a White Claw, so this is a.
I guarantee John Lovitz drinks White Claws too.
Oh no, he seems like a bourbon or a Scotch kind of guy.
Why the hell are we talking about John Lovitz, guys? Because we're going to talk about A League of Their Own as we round third and we're heading home in our mini series on baseball films. This is the final film. It beat out our little poll that we put on our social media between A League of Their Own and The Sandlot. I believe it was by like 1 or 2 votes. Blake being one that voted for A League of Their Own, so he might have been the deciding factor in this episode.
I don't think I guess I was. Yeah, I probably was.
You very well could have been. We I don't know how this happened, but Blake said if we do A League of Their Own, he needs to be on. Whatever that
I didn't say I needed to be on. I just said if it wins, I want on. I want to be there because
that's why he had like 7 people vote for A League of Their Own just so he could be on the show.
Spoilers, I actually used Russian bots to get A League of Their Own to win.
He rigged it.
Who wouldn't?
Yeah. So.
That's just not fair. And you know what? I'm going to become unhinged if you do that. But speaking of unhinged, we should probably talk about
Russell Crowe on me.
We need to talk about the box office for this week as we get our first major new release back in theaters. That is the Russell Crowe-led film Unhinged, bringing in what is this $1 million mark that we are finally breaking for the first time since March. That is Unhinged, first place, $4 million.
Up 565%.
Yes, so it opened in Canadian theaters last week. We didn't mention that. Apparently, the box office from Box Office Mojo does include Canada in the domestic box office. I did not know that.
I believe it's North American box office.
Yeah, so it would include Mexico too if Mexico had theaters running it.
Yeah.
Oh, I totally thought you were going to say if Mexico had theaters.
If Mexico counted, they don't. It was Canada has had theaters open for quite a while, I think, but they got Unhinged and the Spongebob movie, which we'll talk about in a minute, last week. But yeah, this film finally opened here stateside and did okay for itself. You know, breaking the $1 million mark for the first time I said in months. So. What do you guys think of the Russell Crowe-led Unhinged at number 1?
It's the savior of cinema.
Fat Russell Crowe.
I can't wait for Tenet to make $2 million at opening weekend, and then everyone's gonna be like, "Oh my God, Russell Crowe really is the savior of cinema." And then Christopher Nolan's career is done. Like. Yeah. There's no bouncing back from this. So
Russell Crowe will direct Inception too.
Yeah, Russell Crowe is the master and commander of the cinema.
Chris Nolan would figure out a way to bounce back. You know it. He's got somebody in his back pocket to allow him to make what he wants to make.
So this leads an interesting question. 2 questions I have. First of all, Unhinged, $4 million. I think we would expect if this was a normal situation, a normal year. This probably would have done a little better than $4 million.
Oh yeah,
I feel like it would probably place around 10 to 12 opening weekends.
Yeah.
But then the second question I have is, what does this mean for Tenet? Do we think Tenet is going to do big money at the box office, or are these lower numbers still in theaters still a scary sign for Warner Brothers and Christopher Nolan?
I don't think so. I don't obviously we're not gonna expect like a normal Christopher Nolan opening. I think we're gonna I don't know, Brian, do you have a prediction of what it's gonna do opening weekends?
Based on just when I did my pre-sale tickets for New Mutants, because that was the first one that was available to me at the time, just on how our Century Theater is doing like the ticket sales and like blocking out seats and stuff like that. I can't picture doing a whole lot better because, like, I bought a single ticket for myself and it automatically took 5 seats out when they're already halving the theater in the first place,
Oh.
because it took the 2 seats to my left, the 2 seats to my right. So, there's already one ticket just took up 5 spots. So I don't think it's going to do a whole lot, but I would expect 10 to barely maybe even break 10.
That's kind of what I'm at too.
For Tenet,
Yeah.
And I'm
I
thinking
think
that's
it'll-
just
I think
solely on
it'll-
the fact that we don't have the seats to be able to put enough butts in the seats to buy the tickets.
I'm thinking in the 15 to 20
Okay.
is where I'm
you are
going
being
with.
very optimistic here.
Because who gave a shit about this Russell Crowe movie, for one? Tenet has been
hello, over here. I've not seen it yet, but I care.
what? John Lovitz cares about this? He's probably the only person.
I love Russell Crowe.
Well, were you actually in any normal situation going to go watch Unhinged in the theater, though?
No.
Okay.
Now,
But
Casey,
Tenet is a
you understand that.
Listen,
Casey,
I
you
care,
understand
but
that
I
is a
don't
bad
care
question
enough.
for Blake, because Blake doesn't go to the theater anyway.
Well, that's true, but he's going to
That's
go
not
watch.
true.
He's going to go watch Tenet in the theater. Opening.
I'm very, very picky with what I see in theaters.
It's Tenet is the tentpole movie for us coming back to cinemas. It was
It's
already
the Tenet pole movie.
It was the Tenet pole movie. Yes, it was already going to be one of the big releases for 2020 in general before the world went to shit. So I still think there is some buzz around it. I think a big thing that will hold the box office back is what Brian said, the limited seating. If one person goes to the theater by themselves, or 2 people even, you got to block out all the seats next to them, behind them, in front of it. It's a tricky situation, and even with New York and LA theaters still not opening, New York might be soon. I think LA is who knows what's going to go on out there. I still find it crazy that Warner Brothers is going to release Tenet now.
Because
You think they could
Tenet
pull it?
will be in theater. Because Tenet's going to pull the how movies used to be, 20 years ago when it was still, we're talking VHS tapes, when movies were in the theater for 9 months. I don't see Tenet. Tenet will come out now in September. I don't picture Tenet being out of theaters until March of next year.
My prediction is 2023 when Tenet finally leaves theaters.
Yeah. You are right there, because I was even looking at the upcoming schedule for movies. October has Candyman, and that's it. So I mean, yeah, you're right. This will probably run through being in the biggest theater possible, probably until then.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of it just really depends on the big movie markets. If they're going to be closed the rest of the year, then I think Brian's right. I mean, if not, then we could see some stuff open up. But I don't know. Who knows at this point? I felt like in June, every time we'd have our little group discussion about what was coming out, I remember Casey messaging me privately, do you think we'll see movie theaters open in July? And it's like, yeah, I do. And of course, look at us now. They just now opened. So it's honestly at some points a day by day decision. Stuff changes day by day now. So I don't know what's going to happen, but you're probably right, Brian.
All right, we'll run through the other ones here pretty quickly. Number 2 is the SpongeBob movie, Sponge on the Run, bringing in a little over $500,000 this weekend, only in Canadian theaters again here for the domestic box office. I don't
because nobody in the States is going to go to the theater to go see that.
I would go watch this over Unhinged. I like the 2 SpongeBob movies. They're fun. But again, I don't think we're getting this in the theaters at all. I think this will end up going on what did I say? The CBS All Access, or one of the streaming services. Eventually it's going to end up on there, I guess. Number 3 is the not Netflix movie, Words on Bathroom Walls, bringing in a little over $400,000. Number 4 is the 2020 re-release of The Goonies, bringing in $260,000.
Not gonna lie, I wish I had seen this in the theater so far.
Yeah, this seems like a good summer drive-in type of movie, The Goonies. It also played at the downtown at the Faywick Park Moonlight Movies this past weekend too.
Yes.
And then number 5 is a brand new film, Cutthroat City, $243,000, rounding out the top 5 of the box office.
I think COVID's the only way the RZA's going to get a movie in the top 5.
Brutal.
And this is
Brian.
this is a guy.
Brian, I think
Hmm?
Brian, I think you just made the RZA's next diss track.
He's coming after you, Brian.
And you know what, Blake? If I legit showed up on a RZA diss track, I would take that as a full-fledged I win kind of thing. I don't even care. The fact I would have a founding member of the Wu-Tang Clan calling me out, I'm completely okay with that.
Do you guys have any other final thoughts on the box office for this week?
I do not. No,
it's not surprising. I mean, it makes sense exactly where it's at.
When we get to coming soon, we'll kind of jump back to the box office a little bit and maybe give a little predictions on next week's. But before we get to that, Brian, let's jump into the news. We got quite a few pieces of news to talk about, quite a few little superhero pieces of news. But before that, I threw the horror in before that. So
of course you did.
Yeah.
Of course you did.
Why
Because,
not?
don't let the comic book guy talk about comic book stuff first. Okay.
Well, I'm a comic book guy too, but we'll save the best for last. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay, fine.
Or in Blake's case, the best for first.
There you go. So and I didn't know about this until this just released today. That it looks like the Thing is in early development with Blumhouse and in regards to doing a reboot of the Thing. And I don't know what I think about this because look how the last one turned out, that it was supposed to be a reboot, then it was a sequel, it's a prequel. Like, I didn't even know what the heck the last one was that nobody remembers we even had. Like, why do we need to go down this road again? Just because Blumhouse wants to get a hold of this property like they're doing every other horror property?
Yeah, this was announced a while ago that the Thing reboot was in the works. I don't know if Blumhouse was attached at that point. I'm not sure. But the big news is John Carpenter is working on this in some capacity, whether that means more than likely executive producing, maybe doing the score for this one. I don't know. Maybe just cashing a check and playing NBA, on his PlayStation. So who knows what's going on with that? But yeah,
he's attached to have the name attached to it. You know, he's just there for the credit.
We could have said
he's
the same.
Earned that though.
He has, but we could have said the same thing about 2018's Halloween, and the guy comes in and maybe delivers one of the best scores he's ever produced.
Okay, fine, I'll give you that.
So if this time around he's going to score the Thing, that's a pretty big addition to this, and he seems to like working with Blumhouse. I mean, he scored the 2018 Halloween. He's scoring the next two. He's producing those in some capacity, and I think he just likes working with these guys and how they put their films together. And I'm excited to see where this can go. I mean, especially with like the movie The Thing, it's the prime example of if you have a new story to tell, then tell it. The Thing was a remake, and they tried it again a few years later, and that was kind of a debacle behind the scenes too. But I'm excited to see what they can do with a reboot.
I did forget about the whole John Carpenter being involved with the 2018. So I retract my previous statement in that he seems more in the world of his own creations than other franchises that have done reboots and stuff like that. So I'll give you that.
Blake, what do you think of this?
Well, listen, I like the prequel a lot. I'm not gonna. I don't think it's as good as the original. I mean, that's pretty obvious. I like how it ties in. I think the rules for this new whatever it is need to be no CGI effects. Let Carpenter do whatever he wants in terms of, like, if you're going to make him the executive producer, then give him the most power to let him guide the story. I think the third thing would be like maybe expectations from fans not be as high. You know, like cool your jets a little bit. Like we all love The Thing, but like we're not going to capture that magic again. At least I don't expect them to. I will say I still think they should shoot that TV script they made 20 years ago. I think that's incredible, and I wish someone would just be like, let's take the best parts of this, make a 2-hour horror movie out of what that was able to do, because it's an incredible script. But I doubt that's going to happen. So no CGI. Give John Carpenter as much control as possible.
What do you think if they took that 2-part miniseries and just did like a 4-episode miniseries on like an HBO or?
I think that'd be the best way to do it.
I think that would be really, really interesting to do.
I think if they made that movie and made it like it starts immediately after the first movie ends, which I think the script does, and they made even on Netflix. Like I think Netflix has proven they can do these limited series or miniseries, and do a 3.5-4 hour sequel to that, and spend some time growing and nurturing this script that was made 20 years ago. I really think they would have a big hit on their hands.
Yeah, I think this can go many, many different ways, and this is in very early development right now. And I think a big part of it is it's going to come down who's directing and what capacity is Carpenter involved. Are the two big questions with it. Right
Would you like to see Carpenter come back to direct?
I don't think he gives a shit about directing.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think he's had his time, and I say that lovingly. I love John Carpenter, one of my favorite filmmakers, but I don't see it going well if he's a director. I think having like his persona on set to like drive instinct, like I think that would be the best way to go about this.
Yeah, or even I think he just likes hanging out in his house and recording the scores. So if he does the score for this one, that'd be pretty interesting.
Yeah. I'm excited about this, but I'm cautiously excited because I think it's going to be either really boring or it's going to be really good. Like I can't see like middle ground with it. So
I will say this here, Blake, to the point that you made earlier. And because one of the things I would say is I've never seen the new version of The Thing, the prequel sequel thing that they made. But you made a good point of there's no way you could really touch the original, and there was like that expectation kind of going into it, to the point where it's like maybe I would be willing to give that movie a shot, just kind of not keeping the bar so high, knowing what they were trying to work against, if that makes sense.
Well, okay, so I don't want to turn this into the whole like The Thing episode, but I think the final thing I'll say on the prequel is I think if they had stuck with the practical effects, it would have been a lot better. And I think the way it like, I don't want to ruin it for you or people who haven't seen it, but the way it ties into the first movie is like it's literally perfection. Like it's a perfect tie-in to the first movie, and just watch it, because I mean it's essentially a remake of the first one until the end, and then it's like, oh wow, I can't believe they're able to do that, or they thought of that, and they in my eyes they pulled it off. So
okay,
like it's like, don't go in expecting a banger or by any means, but it's a solid movie, and I think it gets flack because they ditched the practical effects for CGI, and The Thing has such a high reputation,
right.
Deserved reputation, and people just shit on it because like it doesn't stand up. Well, of course it doesn't stand up. Like what remake or prequel or sequel like stands up to the original? It's very, very rare that it happens.
True that. So. All right. So what?
Go ahead.
What? I was going to move on to the next thing.
I'm ready for this next one.
We're moving on.
We're moving on. We're done talking about Carpenter. We're talking about The Thing. All right. So the next thing here, no pun intended, is that looks like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre reboot, another one, because, why else are we going to not keep making these movies? Looks like Ryan and Andy Tohill have left the production. as directors, and it looks like we already have a replacement in David Blue Garcia in the Fede Alvarez produced film. What is your you guys are going to be more in this. I don't know the previous guy's work to this guy's work to know, is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? Because it sounds like they left over creative differences.
I'm going to go first because I have the least amount to say about this. I do not care about this 1% at all.
Oh, I love it.
After this news, I don't either. This is really bad news for this movie. From going from what was expected to be them like cashing in on the success of 2018's Halloween and you know, all these horror franchises are all of a sudden going to get resurrected and rebooted, and this was supposed to be that for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and having someone like Fede Alvarez attached was exciting. But then hearing that the directors that they had aboard leave after 2 weeks, and they replace him with another director who has one directing credit to his name, which was a film called Tejano. Came out Tejano. Have you seen
Tejano. No, I just know how to speak Spanish.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So this guy he's not done a whole lot. I've never heard of his previous work. Maybe it's good, maybe it's bad, who knows. But just the fact that they fired the 2 directors that were on this beforehand and have hired another one after a week of production and said, we're just going to scrap everything that we've shot so far, leads me to believe that this was to keep the rights to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It was not ever intended to be the next great film in the series or the next reboot of this. So I'm going to assume this will probably end up going straight to VOD. This does not seem like it'll probably end up in theaters after this. I guess we'll just have to keep waiting for a proper second, third, fifth reboot to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
What would you do or say if it was Fede Alvarez in the director's chair?
Yes, please.
That's a different story. Yeah.
Yes. I don't know why he's not. I don't know what Fede is working on right now. Don't Breathe 2, maybe. I don't know. That is, yeah, if he just took it on himself, yeah, I'd be pumped. I think he would be perfect for it, honestly.
His style would definitely play into that.
Yeah, and he's messed with the Chainsaw Massacre part of it before, with his Evil Dead remake, and you know, he's done the iconic horror franchise remake to, you know, to success and one of the best ever. And so I wish he was, but the fact that he's not leads me to believe that this is just they want to keep the rights to Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Right. All right. So on to the next one here is that it looks like Sony is starting to keep the continuing ability to try to expand on their little Spider-Verse thing they got going on. Looks like they have tapped Olivia Wilde to direct a female-led Marvel movie for them. I enjoyed Booksmart. I know Casey did not. And so I, for the sake that I know that there's a lot of talent in Olivia Wilde that is completely untapped and still yet to be seen, it makes me kind of go, but if you're going to make a Marvel movie, do you have to do it for Sony? But who knows? Maybe this will mean that they'll get a good Marvel movie. I don't know.
Yeah, I was not a fan of Booksmart, but I would like to see where Olivia Wilde goes after that. I think she has something there, and I mean, is this the next thing that she would be doing right after Booksmart, right?
At least
do you
so
have anything
far.
In between? I don't know.
I'd have to look.
But yeah, I think it's a good choice. If we're gonna do a female-led film, we should have a female director. I also think even more so, just because it's a female-led film, we should probably just let great directors direct great films, no matter what gender anyway. But from what it looks like and what she was kind of tweeting online too, she's probably doing either, I don't know if Sony has the rights to Spider-Woman or not. That might be it.
Yes.
Or Silk. It could be a Silk movie. I'm leaning towards it's probably a Silk movie. yeah, with this and the next piece of news, Sony is going back to old Sony ways, and I have a theory of what they're trying to do. And but if you get good directors in there, hopefully something good will turn out from this.
And that's what I'm kind of hoping, that maybe Sony is starting to pick up some stuff from the Feige MCU kind of thing, is, you know, that they're kind of going outside of the box in terms of who they're selecting for these films, because you're going to potentially end up with a better product, you know, i.e., you know, like what Taika doing, you know, Thor Ragnarok, and and even DC with Shazam and James Wan doing Aquaman, stuff like that, you know, is finding somebody who maybe not necessarily looks like it fits the mold, but will give you a good story-driven superhero movie. I don't know, maybe. That's
Blake,
what maybe I'm kind of hoping for.
Blake, do you care about this at all?
I'm probably never gonna watch this, but I'm happy for Olivia Wilde because I think she showed her chops with Booksmart. And to answer a question from earlier, this would not be her next movie. It'd be the second movie she'd be doing, and the next movie she's doing sounds really good and has a really good cast. So
is that the Don't Worry, Darling?
Yes. Yep. But you know, like I'm with Casey. Like if we're talking about, you know, a female-led film, like I don't know why you wouldn't just hire a female director to just, you know, nurture this project along. So I'm super happy that like, you know, this actress that I've admired for, you know, 10 or 15 years now is, you know, becoming this director that I didn't know. You know, I didn't know this existed in her until I saw Booksmart,
exactly.
which I really liked, and I'm all for. You know, I'm all, and this is not just filmmaking, but I'm all for anyone trying something, you know, creative wise to progress themselves, and so I'm really excited to see what she can do with this, and who knows if the reviews are good enough, I'm you know, I might check it out. So,
wow, I never thought I'd hear you going. Yeah, but would you do that at home or in the theater?
Oh, I wait to my house. Yeah, I wouldn't go to the theater for it.
I'm like, I can't. I'm picturing you going to the theater to go see a superhero movie. That just
the last one I saw was Ant-Man and Wasp. I think, was it the second one?
Yes.
Yeah, I saw that was the last one I saw in theaters.
So to stay on the Sony train, Sony also announced that they've got J.C. Chandor to direct Kraven the Hunter, which there is some good and bad to this. And it doesn't surprise me because I know that like the Spider-Man fans out there have been craving for Kraven to have a movie and whatnot. But when I know that the guy that's doing this movie is also the same guy that did Triple Frontier, which from my understanding, not a lot of people liked. I don't know. And the other thing is that Kraven the Hunter is also one of those Spider-Man villains that also happens to have a lot of interaction with the Black Panther, that I know a lot of the MCU fans were hoping that maybe someday we would get Kraven in the MCU in some shape or form. So I'd have to see where this is going to go, who they're going to like cast as Kraven themselves, before we kind of see if this even sounds like it's even going to be a good thing.
We're getting Kraven the Hunter. That's all I care about. I love Kraven.
What if John Lovitz was Kraven the Hunter?
Yes.
Danny DeVito is Kraven the Hunter.
I don't care who plays Kraven the Hunter. I'm just excited that we're finally getting this movie. This title was talked about back when the Amazing Spider-Man movies were going on. Kraven the Hunter was rumored to be happening then. I suppose they have probably reworked that script in some capacity, and I'm excited to see who they cast as him. My vote, Ewan McGregor as Kraven the Hunter would be my pick. But with them announcing a female-led, Spider-Verse film, and then Kraven the Hunter within days of each other. This leads me to believe that Sony is still going to go ahead and do their Sinister Six movie at some point, because I'm going to assume that this is all going to be set inside the Venom verse, instead of the Tom Holland Spider-Man universe. they're still probably hoping that those eventually will cross over, but I'm assuming
They've
Venom,
already crossed over.
Sony says they crossed over.
We saw Tombs. They crossed over.
Yeah, but with that though, I think Sony has ideas and Marvel has different ideas, and I don't know if they're totally aligning. But I think it'll be Venom, Morbius with the Jared Leto film that's coming out next year now, the Olivia Wilde led film or directed film, and then Kraven the Hunter. Those will be at least 4 out of the 6 that we'll get in that Sinister Six movie.
I think the only reason why Sony pulled the trigger now for these 2 films is because they didn't want to be foreshadowed with the DC fandom that happened over the weekend with all the movies and games and all that stuff that DC and Warner Brothers was doing, that they needed to get something pushed out there so that way people didn't go, oh yeah, hey, do you forget Sony's making superhero movies too? The fact that this news came out just before this weekend, that tells me Sony's doing it just because they don't want people to forget that they have them too.
Yeah, so let's jump into those because those are more exciting than this.
Yes,
even though I do love Kraven the Hunter, but
so yes, the next thing is that it has been confirmed, which I think we talked about this a little bit briefly here, was that Ben Affleck has signed on to play his version of Batman in the new Flashpoint Ezra Miller-led Flash movie. So that gives us Michael Keaton's Batman and Ben Affleck's Batman in Flashpoint. So it definitely tells me that Flashpoint is going the route that it's supposed to, that we are going to be playing with the multiverse and playing with time travel and breaking the timeline. Maybe this means we get to see Jeffrey Dean Morgan as Thomas Wayne again, and Lauren Cohen as Martha Wayne. I'm kind of hoping that those weren't going to be wasted cameos that are going to be left to the wayside. But I am excited to see that Ben is coming back for his version of Batman. If you are going to have an Ezra Miller Flash movie that is stemming off of the Justice League and whatnot, you can't just recast Batman just for the sake of it, because there's kind of a already preset presence there. And I'm looking forward to seeing kind of where I see them using the Flash as the jump point to what is the next phase of the DC movies.
Yeah, we talked about it a few weeks ago now that Keaton was coming back, and this was going to set up some return as him as Bruce Wayne in multiple films. And Affleck was kind of the big news of the week, that he would come back. At least as from what I understand, apparently he's more going to be in the Bruce Wayne role than he'll probably be as Batman. So we'll see how that goes. There's some certain behind the scenes stuff that they need to address with this movie, I think, before you go forward, but they have not done so. I'm still excited to see Keaton back. I think that's the big selling point for this movie.
For you.
What's that?
Is it for you?
For anyone. I mean, Keaton for many people is he is Batman. Like Keaton himself is still Batman. Yeah, I'm still excited to watch this movie. Obviously, like I said, Keaton is the selling point. I could care less about Ezra Miller as the Flash. But yeah, I think this is cool to see. We might get multiple Batmans on the screen at one time.
Oh, I'm pretty confident that'll probably happen in some way, some shape or form.
Blake, what do you have anything about this Flash movie?
I don't care about any of these Batmans, but I will say that I love Ezra Miller as the Flash.
I would have to agree. There's something about his boyish charm and weird charisma that just fits perfectly in his version of Barry Allen.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, there's stuff they need to address before they get to this movie.
They did at the fandom, though, also show that they have revamped his suit, and it's going to be more organic and going to be more of, like, the bends and stuff like that are going to be light as opposed to looking like that metal contraption thing he had in Justice League. All right, so on to the next thing here is Wonder Woman 1984 gets a new trailer, which I did finally get a chance to watch that trailer here last night, and I'm actually gonna say is I've got more props for Kristen Wiig as Cheetah than I thought. She is actually looking pretty badass up until she actually has a tail and actually looks like a cheetah. Then I think she looks a little weird. But her beforehand and whatnot, she looks like she's holding her own in a superhero movie, and I'm kind of impressed by that.
I have not watched this trailer. I'm kind of it's already showed me what it can show me to get me to watch this movie.
I
Yeah,
watched it by accident. It just
Kristen
showed
Wiig,
up.
Kristen Wiig is a great actress. She just needs the right roles. Hopefully, this is one of those for her.
Yes.
Yeah.
She definitely. Yes. I'll just say that. Yes.
This was not the news that I gravitated towards out of that DC fandom.
Oh,
That
I
one
know.
kind of fell behind everything else that was happening.
So was it the? What, are we talking Gunn? Or are we talking Snyder here? Which one's the one that you were looking forward to?
I don't give a shit about either of those. It's a goddamn Batman.
Oh.
Yes.
Well, for the Batman in the Flash movie.
Well, that too. Anything Batman.
So all I know is the Flash better not turn into like the Harley Quinn movie where Flash takes backseat in his own movie. I'm just saying.
I kind of hope he does. But let's talk about that James Gunn directed film, The Suicide Squad.
Yes, they didn't show a trailer for the Suicide Squad, but they did show some behind the scenes aspects of it. They announced all the cast, who's the cast, who are they playing, showed some behind the scenes in regards to some of the stunt work that was being done and just stuff in general. I'm in. I am totally in. This looks completely full on. You know how we made the comment with like Six Underground that Six Underground is the most Michael Bay movie that Michael Bay has ever made. This is going to be the most James Gunn movie that James Gunn has ever made. And I love the Guardians of the Galaxy films. This is just straight up bonkers. Sean Gunn as Weasel, just from the little 3 seconds you see him in the trailer, I'm totally in. Like they addressed John Cena's character as like Captain America who doesn't really give a crap just as long as right and wrong is taken care of. It doesn't matter how many people he kills along the way. Like it just looks weird, and I'm completely okay with that.
Yeah, I'm not. This wasn't a full trailer. I'm still very iffy on this because we were burned by the first Suicide Squad movie. I know this is going to be a very, very different take with James Gunn. I'm also a little worried that this is just going to be Guardians of the Galaxy with DC characters, and you know that's what it is. It gave us Polka Dot Man and King Shark, so that's fine with me.
And Polka Dot Man, which is his name is drawing a blank for me.
David Dishkef.
Yes,
the guy from The Dark Knight.
I was going to say the guy from Ant-Man.
He was in those two.
He was in those movies. But yes, the fact that we're getting a movie with like Polka Dot Man and Javelin Man is just mind-boggling. But that just tells me how much he loves and appreciates the fact that James Gunn is literally going into the depths of the DC canon of villains and seeing what people he can pull out for you to go, who the hell is that? I've never heard of that person, never heard of that person. And these are actual characters that truly legitimately existed that just nobody remembers or ever gets talked about.
And I think that works perfect for the Suicide Squad movie because hopefully this time they just kill off a bunch of them. I think the only one that is okay, like you don't have to worry about them dying, is Harley Quinn because she has a franchise to worry about. So I think anybody else could end up.
They won't kill off Idris. They won't kill him off.
Oh, I could see them killing off. He's not a big character. He's a big actor, but he's not. Look, Cena's probably dying. I could see Idris Elba dying. You know, I could see literally anyone besides Harley Quinn not making it out of this movie.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Okay, so we did get a little bit, and I don't know if I would even call this a trailer. They're deeming a trailer. Was the trailer for the Snyder Cut for HBO Max for the Justice League film, and I mainly say that because all it basically was a montage of different scenes that we haven't seen before. Now, I'm completely sold on the fact that they look in the correct tone. They look like what I expect to see out of a Zack Snyder film and what I expected to see out of Justice League before he left the project and whatnot. So I didn't see any bad mustache problems with Superman, so that's a plus. So I'm thinking they just basically were just we got a bunch of DC stuff we're talking about. If we don't bring up the Snyder Cut at all, fans are going to be like, well, why didn't you talk about it during the fandom thing? So I think this was just a matter of we're still putting it together. Here's some stuff that we can tide you guys over with.
Yeah, this looks terrible. On to Batman. It looks like Zack Snyder's version of the Justice League, and I don't care.
That's what it is.
I don't care. I don't care. His Batman versus Superman is terrible. Man of Steel is fine. Like, let's move on.
All right, moving on.
Blake, did you watch any of these?
I watched the Justice League trailer. Well, I liked the Justice League movie. But
you might be the only one.
I'm just so sick.
I didn't mind it.
I'm just so sick of people using Leonard Cohen's "Hallelujah" in trailers. I'm done with it. So
you're not wrong there. It's like that seems like to be the go-to thing.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to goddamn Batman.
Batman. Okay, so coming soon. Yes, so we did get our first official trailer for Matt Reeves' The Batman. We get to see Robert Pattinson in full Batman gear. We get to see a broken down looking year 2 Batman who's still trying to find his way, who's still a vigilante. He's not the hope that the city needs yet. His Batmobile looks like Dominic Toretto got a hold of it and made him a supermobile. Overall, this trailer looks phenomenal. Like, you can definitely see the grittiness that is a young Bruce Wayne who's still trying to figure himself out as Batman. And even to the point where he beats the living crap out of one guy just because he doesn't know restraint yet. You know, you get to see Jeffrey Wright as Jim Gordon in this, and I'm looking forward to him as Jim Gordon. This was a trailer that I think that if they had not played this, there might have been DC fan riots because they needed something to chew on for a little while.
Yeah, Blake, what did you think of this trailer?
I'm excited about this movie. I thought the footage looked great. I just thought the trailer was awful.
I think part of that might be a couple things that were talked about during the fandom event. Only 25% of the movie is done.
Right.
They had to pause production when COVID hit,
Yeah.
which is pretty impressive that you have this much footage. If it's
absolutely. Yeah.
That far done. I like the tone that this is going. It feels like we are still very in the Dark Knight universe, but it's also very much its own thing. I like the fact that the Riddler is like the serial killer going around killing people and leaving notes for Batman to figure out. Feels like we're gonna get a full detective Batman in this one.
But here's the thing though, and when I watched the trailer for this here, that right there does not scream that that's the Riddler as the villain. I don't think that's the Riddler.
He is the villain. He's in the cast. He's been cast.
Well, no, I know Paul Dano is the Riddler, and I know he's in the film, but so is Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying is that I don't necessarily think, I don't know, because you see him briefly with basically what looks like a duct taped head,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and whatnot. I don't think that that's Paul Dano. I could be absolutely wrong. Like you said, they've only shot so much, and they only probably had so much to use to be able to create this trailer without giving too much away. But I do not think that was the Riddler.
Oh, I think it is. I don't think we're getting Jim Carrey green, leotard in this movie. I think we're going to get a more grounded version. I think what we saw from Paul Dano's Riddler is not his final form as the Riddler. We'll see some version, I think, of his costume. Maybe he'll have the cane. I don't know. I I'm excited for that. Even more so that I didn't even recognize Colin Farrell in this trailer at all. He looks like the Penguin, and I like it. I like that he's unrecognizable. You're not going to see Colin Farrell. It's the Penguin. I think that looks cool.
Now I have to rewatch the trailer because I didn't realize he was in it.
Yeah, he's in the trailer. Yeah, Catwoman's kind of blink and you miss it too. Yeah, so I'm very excited for this movie. The biggest part, obviously, for me was him just beating the snot out of some guy and saying he's vengeance. I'm like, oh my god, yeah, you are. Pattinson looks great as Batman. I like that he's emo Batman in this. I think that's pretty cool. Yeah, I'm excited for this movie. I'm excited to see Riddler and Penguin back on the big screen. We haven't had them since the Burton and Schumacher movies. Yeah, I'm stoked for this movie. I wish it was coming out tomorrow.
Yeah, I would have to agree.
Yeah, so that's all we got for the news. Let's move on to our coming soon. We'll run through these kind of quickly here because we've talked about a few of them a couple times, including this one here. This is Bill and Ted Face the Music, which hits select theaters and VOD on August 28th. And like I have said before, this is the movie America needs right now. This is the one that we should be going back to the theaters for. This is hitting the West Mall here in Sioux Falls. So if you are looking to catch this on the big screen, that's where it will be available here. But it is also available on VOD on the same day as well. Obviously stars Keanu Reeves, Alex Winter, and William Sadler returning from the first, at least Keanu and Alex Winter from the first two Bill and Ted's, and then William Sadler returning as Death. We also get Samara Weaving and Kid Cudi added to the cast. And
don't forget Ted's dad.
And Ted's dad. And directed by Dean Parasat, who directed Galaxy Quest. So yeah, I think we're all three of us are excited. We're all planning to go watch it opening weekend. Yeah, it feels like the movie we just need to see in the theaters right now.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this since the day they announced it.
Mm-hmm. You were looking forward to this since when you first saw Bill and Ted 2.
Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey.
Yes.
Oh, so I've been looking forward to this for like 20 years.
Yes.
Well, yes.
Yeah. Here's another movie that we've been waiting for 20 years. That is The New Mutants, which finally is hitting theaters August 28th. It has been delayed roughly 1,000 times according to our notes. It was originally supposed to be coming out April 13th of 2018. So we've been waiting over 2 years for this to finally hit theaters. This movie was supposed to come out, I believe, before we ever started this podcast.
Yes.
Yeah, so this is about a group of mutant teens who are trapped in a mental hospital. Stars Maisie Williams, Anya Taylor-Joy, Charlie Heaton, and is directed by Josh Boone, who directed The Fault in Our Stars.
Yes, we're talking about a movie with people in it who were not old enough to drink at the time they made the movie and have probably been drinking for 3 years since they finished the movie.
Probably. I'm still looking forward to checking this one out, too, this weekend.
I am, too, just because in terms of being a movie that is the X-Men, per se, universe, it's finally the first time they kind of went outside of the wheelhouse and made something a little bit different. This isn't your atypical mutant X-Men film. I mean, even Deadpool being the comedy / breaking fourth wall that it is, it's still still in that same vein, whereas this one finally is that darker side that we never get to see. So I am looking forward to it, and it does have a good solid cast, I think.
Yeah, I'm hoping for the best for this movie. I hope the delays were just because shit got in the way. I hope it's not because of the quality of the film. We'll see this weekend.
We'll find out. I'll find out this weekend.
Let's run through these other ones pretty quickly because those are kind of the two big ones that we got coming soon: New Mutants and Bill and Ted Face the Music. First up is The Personal History of David Copperfield, hits theaters August 28th. It is a Fox Searchlight movie. It is kind of this comedic look at the Charles Dickens classic. Stars Dev Patel and Tilda Swinton and Hugh Laurie in this movie.
Peter Capaldi.
It looks quirky. This movie does look quirky.
I'm
Don't know if
guessing it's a little bit of a artistic license. It looks like here. I think a
yes.
little bit.
Yeah. Let's see. The next one that we got up is called Robin's Wish. Is a documentary about the final days in the life of Robin Williams. This hits VOD September 1st. Yeah, again, this is it's going to tell a story we have probably not heard before. Interviews Robin's widowed wife and some of the directors that he's worked with before, and it looks like a really touching movie on the final days of Robin Williams. And even watching the trailer, I learned some stuff I had not known about that time.
This is something that I at some point I want to get down and watch this, because Robin Williams was an amazing comedian and absolutely loved his work. And this is something, to me it's kind of on the same vein of when I watched of the documentary on Anton Yelchin. It's just something to give you kind of a more perspective on a great artist.
Mm-hmm. Next up is Rogue, which hits VOD August 28th. This is the Megan Fox versus Lions movie. That's all you need to know. She fights a bunch of lions.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Megan Fox goes all Meg like Jason Statham. Got it. Check.
Yeah. This seems like Blake's kind of movie right here.
Yep, I'm in on this one.
It's like, Megan Fox, what?
Next up, we have our Netflix original for the week. This is All Together Now, August 28th. This is a high school senior starring Moana herself. I'm not going to try to pronounce her name. She was the voice of Moana, who tries to achieve her ambitious music dreams with help from her friends and family. So this is the Netflix movie of the week, directed by Brett Haley, who is directing the upcoming Grease prequel, Summer Lovin'. Yeah.
Okay.
Not our kind of movie again.
No.
It's
somebody's movie.
It definitely is hitting that Netflix demographic that they like to shoot for every couple weeks. Next up, this one looks interesting. It's called Class Action Park, which is an HBO Max original documentary. It comes out August 27th. It is a documentary about the infamous New Jersey theme park called Action Park, which is considered to be the most dangerous amusement park ever, that many people have died while attending. Apparently it was used as the inspiration for the Johnny Knoxville comedy classic Action Point.
Just for the sake of it being a dangerous amusement park, I am intrigued. To the point where I'm like, well, I've got HBO, so might as well just watch it.
Yeah, it looks really good. It does look like it says right up front that the story of Action Park is a crime document, or a true crime story.
Nice.
Oh, cool. Next up, we have The Binge, which is a Hulu original film. Comes out August 28th. It is a parody of the Purge series, where instead of all crimes being legal, all drugs and alcohol are legal for one day only.
I love the fact that this is a parody of The Purge. I do.
Yes, stars Vince Vaughn, directed by Jeremy Gerlich, who directed The Wedding Ringer. Yeah, it's a movie. Do you guys ever? Do you guys remember
who the other kid was?
He was from Booksmart.
Yes, and Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah. Do you guys remember the point at which high school movies no longer resonated with you like they would have when you were in high school? Because I think I've hit that point. I think I'm now an old man.
You'll circle back, because then at that point you're going to get into that reminiscing feel of some of these movies.
But like this movie, like if I would have saw this trailer in high school, I'd be like, yeah, this is a must-watch opening weekend movie for me. And now I've lost it. I've lost the youth touch.
You've lost.
Welcome to the club.
Feeling?
Yeah, I've lost all feeling. I've become a shattered old man. Except
wait till you get married and have kids.
Yeah, wait until you start getting those gray hairs there, man.
Already happened. But to try to get rid of my gray hairs is the Phineas and Ferb movie. Candace Saves the Universe. Phineas and Ferb travel the galaxy to rescue their older sister. Comes out Disney Plus August 28th.
See, this is why you haven't lost your your high school reminiscings of films and whatnot. You never got there because you still live in Phineas and Ferbville as a kid.
I like Phineas and Ferb. It's
So I
great.
think that's your problem. You haven't gotten out of the
I haven't-
12-year-old stage.
I haven't gotten to the high school stage yet. Okay,
Right.
that makes sense. Yeah. I love Phineas and Ferb. This seems like maybe on a rainy day I'll check this out.
So tomorrow.
Probably. Next up is a Shudder exclusive film. It's called The Shed. Comes out August 27th. A bullied teen finds that he has a deadly vampire living in his shed. Dun dun dun. All right, so let's move. We got a couple special screenings and events. One of these I will save till the end of the show. But first of all, let's talk about our Moonlight movie of the week, which is going to be The Goonies. I thought this was this last week. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe they're showing it twice. It will be Saturday, August 29th, down at Faywick Park in downtown Sioux Falls.
Cool.
And then we have our first returning Fathom event, which is Sunday, August 30th and Tuesday, September 1st, and on Wednesday, September 9th. So 3 nights to check out the 40th anniversary edition of Airplane.
I would totally go see that.
So that's what we have coming soon. I think the big one we're all going to be talking about next week is Bill and Ted's Face the Music, and and hopefully we'll check that out in New Mutants, and I think we're all in agreeing that Bill and Ted is the one for sure we're checking out, right?
Yeah.
I think Blake might have fallen asleep.
I'm listening.
The White Claws put him down.
When you get married, man, the White Claws do it to you.
So that is our coming soon. Check out our full article right now on backlot605.com, written every week by the great Derek Vierink, who's going down this weekend. But before we get to that, we're going to take a little break, and we'll be right back to talk about A League of Their Own. Casey here again. Just wanted to give a quick shout out to our horror-themed podcast, The Killer Countdown, that I co-host alongside Blake Ginnathan and Sam Lenz. This show is nearing the end of its run, the final chapter, if you will, as we have a few episodes left of that show. So be sure to go check out some of our latest episodes, including Best Final Girls, Best Creature Features, Best Horror Scores. Again, this is nearing its final run, which we will announce a little special something that we have planned for this final chapter. But stay tuned. Once again, that is the Killer Countdown, available right now on this podcast feed. We are back on the Backlot 605 podcast. Of course, we have Blake Ginnathan, Brian Mensing, and of course myself, Casey Kelderman here. We are wrapping up our 2020 baseball films miniseries as we talk about the 1992 comedy drama baseball classic, A League of Their Own. So this is directed by Penny Marshall, stars Tom Hanks, Geena Davis, Laura Petty, and Madonna, alongside Rosie O'Donnell and John Lovitz.
And David,
Stratharin.
Stratharin, thank you.
So let's talk about, first of all, a little history of our history with A League of Their Own. I'll be very brief because mine is very brief. This was the first time I have ever watched A League of Their Own.
And you're wrong for that. And did you finish this movie thinking, man, I should have watched this a long time ago?
See, it was one of those movies that was on TV all the time, and I always caught 10 minutes here, 15 minutes there, but I have never sat down and watched the entire film.
And why?
I don't know why. Why we never watched it in our house. I mean, it was not. We had nothing. Obviously, nothing against baseball movies. I grew up on those, and we loved Big in our house, which is this is the second collaboration between Penny Marshall and Tom Hanks. And I don't know why we never did, but this is my first time watching it. What about?
Well, I'm glad you
guys?
finally had an opportunity to do that.
Yeah. What about you guys?
Well, I saw it when it first came out on video. Probably it was. I don't remember the release schedules for movies back then, but I think it was around 6 months. So I saw it probably like a year later on home video, and then I've seen it, maybe 10 times since. But I've seen it a few times.
I would have to say that is that I know this was not one that I saw in the theaters. I would have been Blake and I would have been too young to be going thinking that this is the movie we were going to go see in theaters. Um, you're talking like middle school type of things and
This
whatnot.
is a
But
PG rated movie though,
Yeah,
it is.
I didn't
which is
realize it until right
wild.
now.
Which is
Yeah.
wild. This does not feel like a PG rated movie.
Yeah.
Because they knew exactly how to skirt the line and use in certain language, which actually fit the time period of the film. So I think that's probably how they were able to get around that.
I don't think there's any swearing in it though either. Now that I think about it.
What you mean the part about where he's talking about when about the brain is that thing that's 3 feet above their ass?
I mean,
Yeah,
other than that,
a little bit, but you're
There
absolutely
is
correct. I think
there's a few Madonna sexual innuendos in this movie though.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
Yes, but no, I think that was a matter of it was using the time period to its advantage. But yeah, I didn't see this until home video. Have since watched it, quite a few times over the years and whatnot. I've always enjoyed this movie. It's got a great chemistry of an ensemble cast. Some of these people you'd picture putting together a movie and like this should not work, but it just does. Like, you picture like the aspect of Madonna and Rosie O'Donnell as BFFs in a film. You're just like, that should not work.
Yeah, there's quite a few of those type of interactions in this movie where they on paper probably shouldn't work, but they do. But a little bit, I guess, if you haven't seen the movie like me as of a week ago, the movie is about two sisters during World War II, where the Major League Baseball has sent a lot of their star players overseas to fight the good fight, and this has left baseball kind of in a scramble to figure out where they're gonna have a season. So what they decide to do is, since the women are at home, they are going to start a ladies baseball league. So the two big players that John Lovitz, who is kind of this scout or businessman, it's not really quite clear what is his role in this whole situation, but he's out there to find the players for this league. And along the way, he finds Geena Davis and Laura Petty. They play sisters, and Geena Davis is kind of she's the older sister. She's the one that's great at everything, and the one that Laura Petty looks up to and is very jealous of. So basically, they both end up on this team because they want Geena Davis, and the only way that she can go or would want to go is if her sister joins her. So they both end up in this league of all lady baseball players, and their coach, the alcoholic Jimmy Dugan, played by Tom Hanks, in a very non-Tom Hanks role, but also very Tom Hanks as well. Yeah, this that's kind of where I want to start with this movie, because like I had mentioned earlier, Big was probably my first introduction to Tom Hanks, and this is him reteaming with Penny Marshall. Those might be my two favorites Hanks roles. They're right up there towards the top for me. Tom Hanks is great in this movie. He's not really playing dad Tom Hanks in this movie. He's playing someone very different. He's playing a troubled person, an alcoholic. How often do we see that with Tom Hanks? Not very often. He's almost the villain throughout the movie. He's at least the antagonist through at least half of the movie. Yeah, what do you guys like Tom Hanks in this movie? I mean,
This is the Tom Hanks where, like you said, like America's Dad, like the dramatic actor that is Tom Hanks today. And I've made mention of this before. There's one thing about Tom Hanks that I genuinely miss, and that's old Tom Hanks, in the respect that we know that he can be funny. We know that he can do like the slapstick type comedy in the sake of like Big and the Burbs and stuff like that. And the League of Their Own is kind of like a mix in between the two. We definitely have the drama in regards to alcoholism and the way he treats the players and stuff like that. But then we have some of that comedy pops up every once in a while when he is the drunk, like when they meet him for the very first time, and the first thing he does is he drunkenly staggers to the back of the changing room to go, take a leak for 7 minutes. that sort of thing. Like those, it's stuff like that are some of the things that I actually kind of miss about what we know that Tom Hanks is capable of, and he definitely shines in this movie because of those things.
Yeah, I do miss that Tom Hanks too. I think we've talked about this probably on the show
Mhm.
at some point. Probably in the Tom Hanks episode that we did like 7,000 years ago. Yeah, I think he's great in this movie. I like seeing Tom Hanks do more of the physical style humor. He's sleeping in the dugout. He's scratching his balls during the game. Throwing gloves at little kids in this movie. Like, I like this Tom Hanks, and I think he's really, really great in this role. But even in the little small moments in this movie, when he's talking to Geena Davis throughout the movie, and especially about her husband, he's great in those little small moments too. He adds to those moments as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Blake, what do you think of Mr. Tom Hanks, America's Dad, in this movie?
It's one of my favorite Tom Hanks performances. I think, I guess for my money, I don't see a lot of drama with his performance in this movie. I think most it's played for laughs. I think
Mhm.
there's some quiet stuff, with him and Geena Davis that really, resonates. But I think for the most part, his alcoholism is played for laughs.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's like a really it's a low key, like really good movie star performance in a movie full of movie star performances.
Agreed.
And I don't think he outshines really anyone. I know he probably has the most famous line in the movie, but I still think, like, if we're talking, like, he never overshadows anyone really. Like he plays to the level of all the scenes that he's required to, and I think it just goes for the whole, like, the performances in general. I think no one's really there outshining anyone. It's just all these great movie star performances that sort of lift each other up. And I think, like, I think he's, like, a great part of the movie. I don't like, he never like outshines anyone in a scene. I don't think. Like, I think Geena Davis is always matches him, and he always matches her in each individual scene.
I would have to agree with you, Blake, in regards to, like, his level and comparative, like, a lot of the supporting cast, he doesn't seem like he's overshadowing them, that he is Tom Hanks. You get all these secondary characters on these teams that, not everybody knows who they are, or if they ever even did anything past that and whatnot. But, it seems that he's talking to them and acting to them on the same level, as opposed to, like, he's, bigger than him and almost like he's talking down to them. Because I immediately think of the scene towards the end with the lady with the son, where when he knows he's yelling at her, and he realizes right away that he doesn't want to yell. He's going to be calm about it, so she doesn't cry again.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not, and she's able to keep at a good level with him, as opposed to feeling smaller than him in that scene.
Yeah, I mean, Tom Hanks is top billed in this, probably just because of his name.
Yep.
But, like, his character's never more interesting than anyone else that he's in the scene with, for my money.
Yeah.
Yeah, and watching this for the first time, I was kind of surprised that we don't get introduced to Tom Hanks until 25 minutes into this movie.
Because it's not about him,
which is fun, which is great. I'm glad that he's not the main focal part of this movie. But if you look at anyone that talks about A League of Their Own, it's all about Tom Hanks and there's no crying in baseball, which is a kind of just a very small moment in this film, very iconic moment, obviously. But Geena Davis is I think she is definitely the standout in this movie. She's great in this movie. I wish we would get more Geena Davis now. Yeah, I think the dynamic with her and her sister creates some interesting discussion too, especially with how the film concludes as well. Leads some things open that I suppose we can talk about if we'll throw up a spoiler towards the end of the discussion. But also, I think Rosie O'Donnell is really good in this movie, and people kind of give her a lot of crap, especially as of late. But I like Rosie O'Donnell.
Rosie was actually, for the type of character who she was playing and how they played him, she was perfectly cast for her role in this film. Like Rosie and Madonna, Laura Petty, all of them, they performed their performances to exactly what they were cast for, and Rosie is no exception to that.
There was only one part where Rosie O'Donnell was starting to get on my nerves a little bit, and it was more of a directing thing. It was in the third act of the film, during one of the games, she's playing third base and just yelling things out, and it kind of took away from the flow of that scene going on. I think it's during the final play of the game, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it is.
Final game. Yeah. It's not necessary for that scene. I get what they were going for, tried to alleviate some of the tension going on in the movie, but I didn't feel like I needed that. Her and Madonna have really good chemistry, though. Like I think Madonna's good in this movie. She's kind of just playing a version of Madonna in the movie. But,
yeah. It's sort of amazing how great she is in this movie for how little she really wanted to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Is that true?
Yeah, she did. She wrote like in between takes, like setting up shots. A lot of the extras were unpaid, and to keep them entertained, like Rosie O'Donnell told stand up, and Geena Davis and Tom Hanks did certain things. Madonna was just like, she just left. She's like, I'm not paid to entertain these people. She'd go back to her trailer. She wrote a letter to somebody explaining like how like awful of a time she was having, and how she hated Geena Davis, how she hated Penny Marshall, and she did not want to be there. And so while be that as it may, like it just reflects on how good of a performance it is. Like she's really good in the movie. Like she's very good in the movie.
That's really crazy because she is really good in this movie. This kind of led me to want, like, why isn't Madonna in more stuff? Like I could have seen her and Rosie O'Donnell doing something after this, doing
they
a
became friends after that, but
a buddy movie after this or something.
I mean, I can't say that I've seen a lot of stuff with Madonna in it, including her own music videos. But like when I think of Madonna in movies, I think of this, and I think of Dick Tracy. And both are two films that I think she did phenomenal work in, to the point where it's like she is a good actress if she would have continued down that path.
They definitely play up the Madonna sex appeal in this movie too, which I thought it was fun. Again, I think there's some unnecessary stuff with that though. I don't know
but at the same time too, I mean, it was the fact that she as a character was owning that that's what her background is. But at the same time too, especially when you see when they think that they're not going to have any more, when they're going to be done and they don't want to go back to their everyday lives, that she doesn't want to be that one that's going to go back to basically being a stripper, that she found a better passion than what that was, to show all that emotion, it was there.
There was a little bit of it there. I think her dance scene is kind of unnecessary halfway through this movie. I don't know about you guys.
No, that was just because Madonna was there and they had to use it.
I think that was probably just written in her contract to have a Madonna scene. Is what I'm assuming that is what that was in there for. I'm not sure. Let's I want to talk about, so Laura Petty is really good in this movie too. So her relationship with Geena Davis as sisters in this movie, it's pretty much anyone who has siblings can relate to this, whether you're the older sibling or the younger sibling in some way, shape, or form. Doesn't necessarily have to be as in sports or anything like that, but they definitely show the combative spirit of siblings, even though they are a little bit older, but they still have that childlike charm to both of them that they always have to try to one up each other in this movie. I think that's a really interesting dynamic in this movie, especially. Can we talk about the final scene? Can we just spoil it?
It being how long it's been, I think that if they haven't watched it, that's their fault.
Okay, so spoiler alert for this 1992 movie. When it gets to the final confrontation, the final at bat, where Laura Petty is at bat against her previous team that she used to play on with Geena Davis. Geena Davis is the catcher. Obviously, she goes to the mound and says that throw her the high fastballs because she likes to swing at them and can't hit them. This was set up very early in the movie, in the first game that we see the two ladies play, that she was in a very similar situation and struck out via the high fastballs, and Geena Davis went on to be the hero of that game. Do you guys feel in this case that the high fastballs was Geena Davis's character playing to both the weakness and the strength of her younger sister? Because at that point, her sister is still very confident she can hit the high fastballs. Do you guys think that 3 in a row was kind of her, in a way, letting her sister be the hero of this game?
Well, I think her dropping the ball is what it was. I mean, I
Well,
don't think
along with that, yeah.
I don't think she expected her to hit it.
I don't know. To me, it does feel like it's one of those things that, as the big sister, that she sees the potential in her sister to pull this off, and she's going to have her go for the one thing that she knows that she can't, and at least if she knows that if she does do this and pulls it off, it's going to be the one thing that she thought that she couldn't do in those high fast ones. And I think it's the dropping the ball is that, she uses the excuse, well, you ran into me, of course I dropped the ball. She was a good enough catcher. She would have kept that ball if it would have been anybody else but her sister. She lost the game.
And they do show that earlier in the movie too, where she has a similar situation where a runner is barreling into her at home and she holds on to the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys like that? I don't like that. If I was the older sibling, I would not have done that. But maybe I'm just a jerk.
But I think you have to take into effect that, like, Geena Davis didn't really want to be there, and she knew that
her sister, this was her dream.
Like if her sister doesn't win the game, it's potentially she goes back to Oregon and lives on the farm where she doesn't want to be. Right. So I don't have a problem. I mean, it just makes complete sense thematically that ends like that.
Yep, I have to agree with Blake on that one.
Yeah, for the story of the movie, it does definitely make sense. I'm just thinking in terms of what I would do in that situation. Like, no, you need to learn. You need to learn to beat me the right way. But I think there's also an interesting aspect to that, especially in the opening of the movie, where we see the older version of Geena Davis, and she's telling her grandkids who are playing basketball outside. She tells the older one, "Oh, take it easy on your little brother." And then she tells the younger brother, cream him or something along that. Yeah.
Well, you got to instill the confidence in the little one.
Yeah.
So thematically, definitely there is a through line throughout that. That older version stuff, though, do you guys? I don't find that very necessary in this movie. It's very much the Saving Private Ryan factor for this.
I guess I really enjoy it quite a bit. I actually teared up a few times watching it yesterday. Mm-hmm. The only thing that I really think is egregious is the fact that they got Geena Davis to dub this woman's voice, which is so awful. But I mean, I really enjoy. I get what you're saying. Is it necessary? I mean, maybe not, but it's a nice. It's a nice.
It shows that they actually meant something in the baseball history.
Yeah, and it shows it's real.
That it wasn't just that 1 year thing. That this did go on for 11 years. That this was something that is a part of the American culture that was overlooked for how many years until the Baseball Hall of Fame says we are going to put an entire section into the museum specifically for this.
Is it necessary? I mean, probably not. But I really enjoyed it. I really enjoy it.
Oh, I don't think I definitely do not think it's bad or poorly acted at all. I think it's really great, and especially the opening stuff definitely sets up some of the themes of the movie.
Yeah.
I didn't need them playing baseball at the end, though.
No. I agree with
the
you.
Stuff at the museum, it's good, and all the older versions are perfect casting of that. Like the
Yeah.
actress who plays older Geena Davis looks like
Right.
an older version
Yeah.
of Geena
Yeah.
Davis, and
Yeah.
Probably the only one that I don't think looks like an older version of herself is the Rosie O'Donnell one. Outside of that, like everybody else, the
I
pictures,
could see that.
maybe a
I
little
could see
bit,
it.
but like
the Madonna one didn't have enough plastic surgery.
no, she was working with the other one,
The other one who did, yeah.
the Miss Georgia or whatever it was who married the plastic surgeon. She
Yeah.
went to go talk to her.
She has
Yeah.
to, yeah.
You don't
Yeah.
look that you look great. I married a plastic surgeon.
I really think this movie could have ended with like Kit and Dottie like meeting in the Hall of Fame, and that like it's sort of just like that's it.
Yeah.
The baseball stuff like at the end is kind of maybe too like sentimental, and then the Madonna song just does not work with this movie at all. But
I completely forgot about the Madonna
Yeah.
song until all of a sudden the credits
It's-
start rolling. I'm like, oh, that's right.
It's-
You got
it's
her
like
for
a-
that too.
the song is fine. I just don't think it works well.
Yeah.
Like the whole movie is so fun, and it's like outgoing, and it's like and it's dramatic at times, but like it's a very playful movie. And then all of a
Mhm.
sudden, like we have this like really depressing song play. Like this used to like this, and I get it, like this used to be our playground, but like I don't know, it just doesn't work for me. Like, and maybe that's like I gave this movie like a 4.5 stars out of 5, and that's maybe the reason why I would like dock a 0.5 star, because that song is just terrible. But
Isn't it crazy that they wouldn't get a poppy Madonna song for this movie?
yeah, I don't know. It just so yeah. Since we're on music, I just want to say that the Hans Zimmer score for this is really, really good.
That was again one of those ones where I was looking at this and going, oh, it's that guy that we talk about every once in a while. I forgot he did this one here too. And then I started
Yeah.
going through like his filmography, and I'm like, oh dang.
Yeah,
Like-
it's a
like-
really, really good score.
He has some Hans Zimmer just has some of those films that you're so used to him being these huge dramatic thematic movies that you get stuff like A League of Their Own, you're like, oh, he did that too.
Yeah,
It's just nice and small and not bombastic like
yeah. Well, like,
current Hans
yeah,
Zimmer.
well, yeah, and like there, like it really like there's one montage where like it feels like this bit like jazz big band thing happening. I thought that was really cool. And then when it gets to the big game, like there's all these big sweeping, movements,
Mhm.
especially when they're showing Kit celebrate her winning run and everything. I think that like, it's just a really underrated score.
Speaking of the sound of this movie, the sound design in this movie is great. Like that's one
Yeah.
thing I noticed throughout it. The sound design and the sound mixing for this movie is really great. I first noticed it in the first game that Geena Davis and Laura Petty are playing, where the sound design, like you feel like you're standing in the crowd for
Yeah.
the game, and then
Yeah.
especially in the final moments too, you feel the exact same way. And
Yeah.
Yeah, I think on a technical level, like this movie is very well made. To like the production design, like I really felt like I was watching a movie that was made in the 40s. Yeah, I think a lot of that plays into why I love the movie so much, because it just has like this big nostalgic feeling.
Mhm.
I personally don't care much about baseball, but like this movie, the way it shows like the yesteryear and the time that has is gone by, like what America was and what made it tick. Like baseball is a huge part of that.
Mhm.
And I really love like looking back on this era of Americana
Mhm.
and seeing how baseball and how also how in a way women were progressing in society, and how like that like this story is very central to that plight. And I thought I just think this movie does all that really, really well.
And I think that's kind of one of the reasons we pitted it against The Sandlot, which is a very similar in tone, where it is all about the Americana feel of it, and how important baseball is to the American history. And that one's set during the 50s, and this one during the 40s, and
Yeah.
very, very similar vibe for both of these movies. Yeah.
You make it sound like we pitted these two movies together because of the Americana vibe. We pitted these movies together because we were fighting on how many movies you would have done baseball movies for the next 3 months if
I would just do a
we would've-
baseball movie podcast. I mean, I'll talk about Major League back to the minors all day long, but we'll have to save that for next year.
bench warmers
Sa-
too.
Sandlot will happen next year. Don't worry.
Yes,
Exactly.
we've mentioned it before. This baseball miniseries might be a yearly thing.
We'll put the Sandlot versus Bull Durham or something.
Oof.
We're gonna get Brian to watch Bull Durham next year. That's what
Bull
we're gonna
Durham is incredible.
do. It is.
It's so good.
I've heard great things. It's just one of those ones that just never got there.
Yeah.
All right. Before we wrap up our discussion on A League of Their Own, we are not talking about the Lovitz in the room. John Lovitz in this movie.
Or the Bill Pullman in the room.
Well, Bill Pullman's in it for 30 seconds, but John Lovitz. I love John Lovitz.
John Lovitz. John
Great.
Lovitz is one of those ones where it's like, for the sake of like the museum pieces and whatnot, that we have a little bit of the entire movie aspect of it, the recruiting to the playing and stuff like that, to see him as one of the pictures on the wall kind of thing and whatnot. But no, John Lovitz is full on beautifully cast John Lovitz as the baseball scout in this. Like he showed up on screen. I'm like, oh, that's right. This is gonna be fun.
It's the perfect amount of Lovitz in a movie.
I was just gonna say the exact same thing. I love John Lovitz in this movie, but I think like he's in it exactly the amount he needs to be before someone else takes over. I really do believe like this is just a movie full of movie star performances, and like everyone takes a back seat to somebody else at some point in the movie. You know, like Tom Hanks gets his scene. Geena Davis gets his. Geena Davis gets hers. Lori Petty gets a few scenes where I think Lori Petty is incredible in this movie. Madonna gets hers. Rosie O'Donnell. But like John Lovitz shows up and does his John Lovitz thing, and like just before it becomes like too much, he's out of the movie.
Yep.
And I really miss Hollywood movies like this. Like I really think like around like 94, 95, like these movies just stopped existing. And like I think this is just one of the best like RIP Hollywood movies where you had a really good story and all these actors come in and deliver great performances and great direction. And like I think it was Derek brought up that Deborah Winger was supposed to be the lead actress in this, and like she had to drop out because she got pregnant. And as I started the movie, I was like, oh man, like I really wish there was a version of Deborah Winger in this. And like 45 minutes in, I was just like, you know what, Geena Davis is just perfect in this movie. And there's scenes where like Geena Davis literally isn't even saying anything; she's just acting in the background, and she's incredible. Like. There's a scene where like Tom Hanks approaches the mound to take the ball, or like see how Lori Petty's doing with her pitching, and Geena Davis is like literally just standing there and she's just looking off in different directions, like not saying anything, but it's so strong and like impactful. And I like it's like we don't get great background performances anymore, like, and it just shows how good Geena Davis is and how she can step back and give somebody else the scene while like still being great by doing nothing.
Yeah.
And I think that's the strength of this movie is all these performances just no one outshines anybody. They're all great at all times.
Mm-hmm. And like you said, everybody gets their just desserts in this movie. Everybody gets their scene.
Yeah.
I think this is this was definitely a great choice to end our baseball miniseries on, and I'm glad I finally watched it for one.
I do have to throw something out there, and I just want your guys' input and see what you think, because for the sake of a Penny Marshall film, this is still really early in her career, because we only had what looks like 3 big movies before this that she did. Well, bigger movies. Literally big. Jumpin' Jack Flash, which is a Whoopi Goldberg movie that many people may or may not even remember, and Awakenings, right? Because one of the things I was thinking is one of the people that's in this movie who kind of in the same lines of like Lovitz is he's there as much as he needs to be, but is her brother Gary Marshall, who is not exactly known for not being a big time director himself. To think that maybe that she is able to at least be able to lean on her brother that for input and guidance and stuff like that to help make such a great movie. Because I mean, I think having Gary and Penny Marshall on the same set at the same time would only continue to make magic.
Well, I mean, I don't think she never needed him. She did Big right before this. Big is a fantastic movie, and unless I'm gonna eat my own words, I don't believe he was in that. I mean, so I think it is cool that she had her brother on set and in the few scenes that he's in, and but yeah, I think she's a I think it might just run in the family with those two, them both being great directors on their own. Yeah, I think it's maybe it's in the genetics of the Marshall family.
And that could be absolutely true. It's just it is one of those things that like when I'm watching it, you know, like Lovett's popped up, Bill Pullman pops up, you know, David, and again, I always butcher his last name. Thank you, Blake. Is that again? I saw Gary Marshall. I'm like, oh, that's right, another good, phenomenal actor / you know, maker of movies to fit his role perfectly.
Yeah. I know we've talked about it a couple times already, but I do want to say that David Stratharin is one of my favorite actors. Like I think he just shows up and he's just so good at whatever he does. And he's one of those actors when he comes on screen, you're like, oh yeah, that guy. I'm so glad he's here.
Yes.
And he sort of turns from like not a villain, but you know, kind of this guy who's like all about business to like becoming the savior of the league and the savior of, I shouldn't say the savior, but like, you know, the guy who puts his faith in these women and puts his faith in the product.
Yes.
And
when he sees how much it means to them, to more than just what to the owners, then he's like, I'm going to take over the league because you guys don't want it.
Yeah. It's a great movie.
Yeah. And there's not there's not a bad performance in it.
No.
Yeah, I wish it was like 2 hours longer. I could have watched more.
You'll just have to watch the TV series then, Blake.
We'll see about that.
All right, so
the TV series.
Let's wrap up our conversation on A League of Their Own. Obviously, from this conversation, we all very much recommend this film if you have not seen it before, or if it's been a while, definitely go check it out. Available on most streaming platforms to rent, so it is a pretty easy movie to find, or dust off your old VHS or DVD and pop it in.
Or, you know, go buy the Blu-ray.
Let's wrap up this conversation here. We got a couple of things we got to plug before we end the show. First of all, you can find this podcast on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcast, and on YouTube. And if you do subscribe to us, or if you follow us on any of those, please leave us a little review if you like the show, or if you didn't like the show, please leave us a review either way. You can also find us on backlot605.com. That's where you can find our latest movie news, reviews, articles, discussions. We have a couple new reviews up on there right now, and our coming soon article. That's all on backlot605.com.
Yes, and you can also check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Follow the conversation there. You know, like us, share us, comment, all that fun stuff. You can also join the conversation in the South Dakota Film Community group that we have on Facebook, where we like to share what we're thinking and what we're doing, anything that's got going on. Join the conversation. We enjoy to hear from you.
Yes, and we have another thing we got to plug, since we do have one of the other four members that'll be participating in this countdown that we are doing. This is this upcoming Sunday, August 30th at 7 p.m., held at Spellbound Magic Shop here in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, on the corner of 41st and Marion. This is our ranking of the top 20 Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone movies, where myself, Mr. Blake Ginnathan, Charlie Eccles, and Derek Vierink will be ranking the top 20 films of the two greatest action stars of all time. So, Blake, do you have any final thoughts as we approach possibly the biggest show of all time?
The final thoughts of what I'm, how I'm feeling about this.
How you feeling about this?
I want to hear the shit talking.
Well, No, I'm not gonna shit talk. I'm nervous. I've actually thought about quitting a few times because I don't know if I can handle the anxiety with what should be discussed and rankings wise. So I'm very nervous. I think there's a clear number one movie. We'll see if that happens.
Hercules in New York.
I'm prepared to have people be upset at me. That's all. That's what I'll say. So, I don't know. I'm excited to do this.
I am trying to mentally prepare myself for Blake to break my heart. Yeah, that's all I gotta say. It'll be
start
like
playing "Unbreak My Heart."
Yeah, I'm gonna at the
I
end
gotta
of the
break it first.
Yeah, at the end of the show, Blake will just take my heart and crush it into little pieces. But I'm trying to prepare my body for it. No, I think it's going to be a fantastic show. I think we're all relatively in the same mindset. I think I know what will end up being in our top two. I hope it's some of the other ones that I'm worried about where they end up. So,
well, you're the one that made up the weird, shuffle order. So that's half on you, right?
Derek brought up a point. He said, maybe Casey, you've brought this up too, but like, there's probably like a top 10 that we can all agree on. It's the 11 through 20 where things are going to get pretty insane.
I am not worried about the top 10 at all. I think we all have probably similar top 10s. It's the other ones I'm worried about. What will be left off the list? That frightens me. Or what will make the list in those picks?
Terminator Genesis.
Let's hope to God not. Yeah, so again, that is August 30th, 7 p.m., Spellbound Magic Shop, and on Facebook Live as well. Mr. Brian Mensing will be our host for the evening. He will be dressing up like Arnold Schwarzenegger in The Running Man for this show.
Nice.
No.
Did you not order your leotard?
My unitard?
Yeah.
No, and I have not been working out.
Yeah, he is. Not
I'm dressing up as Arnold Schwarzenegger from the first 5 minutes of Terminator 2, so be prepared for that.
Oh no! I'll just dress up like Stallone from the end of Nighthawks.
I was just saying, if this was Arnold Schwarzenegger before or after he beats the crap out of Bill Paxton.
Definitely before.
Yeah, so that's what we got coming up this week. But next week we are kicking off a brand new miniseries for the month of September. We have five Wednesdays in that, so we're going to be talking 5 different movies in this subgenre that we are calling 1980s fantasy films. We're kicking it off next week in what will be our never-ending podcast as we talk about The Never-Ending Story with Mr. Andrew Heller, a.k.a. Fat Dude Digs Flicks. He will be back on the show in what feels like 7,000 years. Yeah, I'm very excited to have Mr. Andy Heller back on the show.
Yes, it'll be a good time.
It's been a while. So, yes, that is next week, kicking off 80s Fantasy Month, The Never-Ending Story. And we're very excited to do that entire miniseries for the month of September. We have some cool guests, and we have Blake Ginnethan on those.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'll definitely bring up the
I like how you do that. We have some great guests. And Blake.
Well,
I mean, to be fair, you guys are getting the freaking state theater lady on. She's a lot more qualified to talk about this than I am. So that's pretty cool.
If you're not qualified, Blake, none of us are qualified.
We'll see if my tone of voice changes after the live show. But yeah, that's upcoming for the month of September. You have that to look forward to. But yeah, any other final thoughts on today's episode, boys?
Go watch that movie if you've never watched it, and shame on you if you've never watched it. Go enjoy.
Yeah, I echo that. I not the shaming part, but yeah, go watch it. It's a great old. I shouldn't say old. It's an older, Hollywood classic.
We say classic, and it's only 28 years old, Blake. We are old.
Well, I mean, you could argue a movie that came out 5 years ago is a classic. So, but yeah, I feel old. Definitely feel
old. When this movie is older than Casey is.
Yeah, that's not a surprise.
Damn.
It is, yeah. So yeah, again, I will echo both of what you guys said. Please go check out A League of Their Own if you have not, or if you have not revisited the film in a while. Definitely check it out and watch some more baseball movies. Why not? Go watch some actual baseball. It's always a good time. So yeah, for Brian Mensing, for Blake Ginnathan, I'm Casey, and we'll see you next time on the Backlot of South Dakota.